All right, welcome to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel, and we do have Matt Campbell on again. Matt, how are you?
Doing all right. How are you?
Doing good, man. You got me on a day that I'm just pumped up. I'm excited about talking about running, but also what you bring to the running community. So, you ready?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Welcome back, by the way.
Yeah. Thanks for having me back.
So, it's funny because I don't know, 3 weeks ago or so, you showed up to this 5K, which was surprisingly cool. It's called the Velvet 5K Hammer, Velvet Hammer 5K or something like that. And you brought some of your guys with you and wearing these amazing shirts. I think, oh my God, I know these guys. And so I obviously came up and started talking to you. And I said, how do you think you're going to do? And you were very upfront. You weren't like, you're confident, not, oh my God, but you're like, I think we have a good chance of winning. And when you said we, you meant the whole team, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I even talked to Brent Woodall. He was there as well, representing the completely slothed. And man, these guys just look fit. And I saw you for the first time, met you for the first time. I was like, you look fit anyways, but just seeing somebody you can tell that you don't just run, but you also do other things, like just super fit. I love that. One thing you said to me, and I just want you to talk a little bit more about this, is, Chris, I want to start just going for it. When I race, I want to just go for it. When I want to put it all out there. What made you help me understand some of that thinking?
Yeah, for sure. To back up first.
Yeah.
I think it's always funny. People see me and assume that I do a lot of upper body training because I look a little bit more built for a runner. And that's just a complete lie.
You don't?
Well, here's the thing. I was a pretty high level swimmer for a while, and specifically going through puberty as a teenager, I swam. And so I feel like no matter what I try to do, I'm never going to be able to shed this frame. And I will tell you, everyone's always, oh no, you look great. I said, look, now that I want to be this fast endurance runner, I would love.
You're a fast endurance runner. Not one.
Yes, but it's one of those, I don't know, maybe it's body dysmorphia. I watch Connor Manson, Clayton Young, and I'm like, I just need to lose a couple of inches of shoulder width. But anyway, it's very funny that you mentioned that. I do zero upper body work is why.
Okay, but you look great. You look like a swimmer. That makes more sense. I told my wife, I was like, look, this dude looks great. He just looks fit. It's not that I wasn't expecting, I figured you're going to look fit, but not.
I hear you.
With the upper body, but I liked it. I don't know why anybody would like that. Most people would die from that.
I say it was funny because I think I mentioned in our last podcast, I'd recently picked up with a coach of my own, and I sent him some videos of me running, and it looks good. He said, it looks like you do a lot of work in the gym with doing upper body work, and just know we don't need to prioritize that for now. And I said, dude, I do none of that, but thank you for validating that for me. But anyway, but then to go back. So this 5K that what I was looking for, I think we've hit that time of the year where unless you were doing Boston, right, there's not really a big marathon to aim for. And so myself and a lot of other people were transitioning more into that speed season. And so I was looking for, is there a 5K or some race like that we could kick off that season, set a baseline?
Yeah.
And I'd seen the Velvet Hammer 5K before. And honestly, the one thing I'll say about it, first off, it was a really well-run event. I really enjoyed that day. That was cool.
Eric Lindbergh and Sharon, they run bunch of these 5Ks all around Texas and Dallas.
Yeah.
They go outside of Dallas as well. And they put on the best 5Ks in all of Texas. I'm not joking. It's a party. It's very well done. They've been doing it for years.
It was just a smooth run morning. And that when it's not a super high level event, there can be a lot of variability in that quality. So I was really happy with that. But I also glanced at the route before and just saw, I said, this is a pretty nice route. That's the flattest K in Dallas. And then I saw, as I was looking at the website, I saw that they had these new competitions for the biggest run club and the fastest. And that the winner gets a happy hour. So I quickly messaged that out to all the slots and said, hey, can we get 4 other guys and just go win this happy hour?
Yeah, and you did.
Fortunate that I had enough people do it. That did 2 things. One was it helped us win the happy hour. And 2, I was able to recruit my own competition for the day.
I love it.
And that goes into what we talked about and what my goals were for that race. I think that when we get into the sport and we get really invested in it, we start to identify with it and we start to find some weird objective ways to validate and to benchmark ourselves. We're always worrying about our PRs, worrying about our BQs, things like that. And having goals is great, but we know it can sometimes zap the joy out of it. And also sometimes those goals if you fixate too firmly on them, can get in your own way. And that's certainly something that I have dealt with. And so there's that internal challenge. Then there's the external challenge of worrying about what are other people going to think. If I go out there and I just totally bonk on any race.
What would Chris say on his podcast if I did?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Not
Especially we
really.
live in this Strava world and this social media world. We're all very cognizant of other people being aware of us. And the truth is, no one really cares, right?
Nobody
Like
cares.
no one cares about your running more than you, but it can hold, these things can be the best and the worst part of this
The
sport.
mental aspect is always the
And
hardest.
yeah,
But I think that's in life anyways.
yeah. What I've been really, one person I'll credit for all of this is Brent Woodle.
Yeah.
He's a guy that I've known him for a while, but really haven't gotten closer to him until the last year or so. But I would just see some of his pre-race. He's always been very transparent about his goals.
Yeah.
And then his reflections after races, when they do go his way or when they don't, has always just been very honest, balanced. And I've really appreciated, it really has stuck with me that he's not scared to say, hey, I want to run this time. I think I can be this. And not feel like he has to be disingenuous with anyone and by extension himself. And so you can do that with goals. But I think when we were talking the morning of that 5K, that was one of those days where it was warm. It was humid.
Yeah,
That was going to be a rough day. And there was just no way you were going to run a
PR or something.
PR, right? But that doesn't mean that you can't go out there and really gain a lot from that race. And so the mindset I had going into that race was like, this is going to be an experience where I race the competition I brought and I have a mindset and I need to go execute that mindset, because if I can set a goal, train towards that goal, but on race day, not fixate so much on that goal, but fixate on racing and fixate on how am I going to just perform my best in the conditions on that given day, take what God gives me on that day and go do it. And so I came into that 5K saying, that's what I'm going to do. And I think I told you, and this was my strategy for the 5K, I'm going to break it up into kilometers. And the first K, my focus, my mantra is stay controlled. And specifically, I think my buddies who I run with, they'll probably listen to this, but I knew that my guys, David and Mick, were going to go out faster than I probably wanted to. And so I said, let them go. And that's what I said for the first K, let them go. And then after that, once my watch beeps, then, and you can start to really open up a little bit.
You had your watch on to be.
Yeah. So I had it set to go off each kilometer. And so once I got through that first one.
Calculated. I love that.
Yeah. So let the next 2 or 3, you just want to get into a flow state. Just run.
Yeah.
Just don't even worry about how you feel. Don't even worry about the paces. I'm not fixating on catching anyone. I'm not fixating on sticking with anyone. I just run at that point. And then I said, once I hit that 4th K, the plan is make it hurt. I'm going to push at that point. And then once I make it hurt, the whole goal was in that last 5th K to not give up when it hurts. And if I can do those things, then who cares what the time was today? Then I've gained something from this. And if you go back and look at my splits, that's exactly how I ran it. I ran probably my slowest K was the first. Then I settled in just a few seconds per mile faster. And then you can see there's this bump on my Strava where in that 4th K, I made a move and I accelerated. And then the 5th K, it was friggin' hot that day. So I think I faded very slightly in the last quarter mile. I hung on. It was like going from a 450 per mile pace down to 510 per mile pace. That's not a bad
it's 20 seconds.
On a day but not a day like that when and truthfully, I was in the lead at that point. I knew David wasn't going to catch me. I said, let's not pass out here, right? I got a whole weekend ahead of me. Yeah. I got to go to a kid's soccer game and do all these things. Let's not be like,
don't let a 5K kick your butt.
Basically, let's not get into rhabdomyolysis right here, right? Let's just get to the finish line. But anyway, I think when you can have those types of goals on execution, what I tell the athletes I coach and my friends is, again, like I said, you set goals and you train towards them day in and day out. And then on race day, you just have to let it go a little bit. And you just got to go out there and come up with a game plan that's not so fixated on that, but fixated on knowing what the effort needs to be and knowing how you can sustain that effort. And it was really fun, really successful, and that's been a great jumping off point for kind of the speed season that I'm in right now.
That was really cool. And I enjoyed seeing all of you guys there just walk up with all this swagger, knowing that, or you had a really good chance, obviously, to win as in the group, but you also won that 5K as well. Yeah. Congratulations.
Well, that's great. It's funny because I think you realize what that's going to look like when these 6 fit dudes in bright yellow and blue singlets show up. We were all walking up there and one of them.
I love that though, man.
Someone was like, dude, we look like such tools right now. We look like a high school cross country team coming out here. We said that and then we laughed and said, that's great. That's who we are. Let's just out and go have some fun.
No, that's pretty cool. How do you think about, and I want to shift this a little bit
Yeah.
because you're a pretty driven guy outside of work. You have a family, you have work, and you do a lot of running. How do you balance that out? Do you feel like maybe running really helps with your mindset each and every day to get you through, or what's thinking around all that?
No, absolutely. I think that's like the key fundamental question with all of this, right? We like almost everyone, certainly everyone who's going to listen to this podcast is probably not a professional runner, and you have all those other things. And I'll actually credit, I've talked about this a lot, but I'll credit my good friend, Matt Barron. I think he was on on your podcast with the guys running Boston, and he had a great Boston.
Yeah, he was. He'll be back on soon.
Yeah. He's like just a treasure of like knowledge. He's got like wisdom ahead of his years. He's a little bit younger than me, but he talks a lot about your life pillars, making sure you have more than one pillar that kind of like your life balance is on, and making sure we maintain each of those, but also knowing that those are all going to be their strongest maybe at different times, but making sure you develop them all and that they complement each other. And so, yeah, I think that for me, it's always a work in progress. The other thing that you'll hear other experts say, like Steve Magnus and others, is that it's impossible to be completely dialed in to all these things at one time.
Of course.
You have to periodize your life to some extent. When work gets intense, something's going to have to give.
Yeah.
And it's just being clear on what is allowed to give and when. But I find that running, especially the way I run with, it's definitely something that sets up the day, because I run like 5 a.m. right? My friends and I, like, we're up at 5 a.m. run, and so it sets what the intention of the day is going to be, and just you're going to be productive. And honestly, my worst days are when I don't run. If I decide I just need to sleep in, and then I feel like my whole day is less focused. But I will say there's points in my life where I think that running really elevates me professionally. It really elevates me personally with my family. But there's also been times in my life where I've gotten a little bit too focused on the running, and I think it has been a little bit detrimental. And fortunately, I have a wife who's great about keeping me centered, but also just...
Well, that's what it's about, is you keep each other centered.
I've learned over time to try to keep all those things, try to make sure I keep myself in check, keep perspective. At the end of the day, keeping family as a number one priority, being okay with saying, like, for example, I'd signed up to go run the Boston Marathon. I wanted to go run the Boston Marathon, but we just had stuff going on this spring that it was going to be a really big burden on my family. And probably 2 or 3 years ago, I would have been pretty selfish, and I probably would have gone and run. This year, I said, I need to keep my priorities in mind.
Something you said to me once, the last podcast that you're on, is none of us are professional runners. And so when you put that in perspective, and what that really means is, yeah, Matt, you're probably faster than most people in DFW. Most. Maybe not everybody, but almost everybody from a marathon standpoint. Very close to the fastest. But you're not an elite athlete, as in you're not a 210 or 205 or 201. You're not doing those.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you might be able to do 220s at some point. You're not going to get paid to do this. And your family, and you have a family. Like, what is the most, you have to prioritize. Yeah, you can still run and do some fast things, but you miss Boston. Yeah, it sucks. There's a lot of people there that probably want to be there with them, but okay.
Yeah. And I think that you reiterating that helps to kind of, I was rambling a little there, to focus and say, yeah, you're at the end of the day, your running needs to enhance those other parts of your life. And if it's not, then we need to adjust that. But I will also say that I think that how you approach one part of your life often parallels how you approach every other part of your life. So if you're being disciplined with your running, you're taking it seriously, you're planning it, I often see that leads to you being more disciplined and effective in other aspects of your life, right? 100%. And so while it's not necessarily needing to be the center of your life, there's a lot of ways that taking it this seriously, even as an amateur, can be beneficial.
I think it's funny because I was telling you earlier, I was on this other podcast earlier today, and we were talking about this guy's life, right? He was this executive making a lot of money, about to be a partner at one of his big consulting firms and everything else. And he was about 100 pounds overweight. And so what he didn't do was take care of his body. He didn't take care of anything besides, but he was an executive that just did some awesome things at work. But that's all he thought about, and that's all he cared about, and didn't do anything else. He had some gallbladder problems, and then he had to go get surgery because then he had pancreas problems after that because he didn't get his gallbladder out. And the guy goes, well, to the doctors, hey, I'm going to get out of this. All right. The doctor's, we don't know. You literally could die from this because as a doctor, you probably at least understand that. But point is, he quit doing that and he quit the job for 15 months. For 6 weeks, he went to, I don't know, some other country with his mother-in-law to teach him more of how to eat better, how to take care of himself. And now he has this whole community for the last 3 years. He lost 100 pounds. He quit working for 15 months and now he's fitter than ever. He's not Campbell fit, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like he's eating right. He's doing all he's So the point is that it took him that amount of work and time to just figure out, it almost took him to death to figure out that he needs to also take care of himself first, his body and things like that. So I think you mentioned 3 aspects of things in your life. You got family, you've got your job, and you've got running in a way.
Those are my 3 pillars.
The only 3 things you do.
Now, who needs more than that? I don't.
But I'm sure you eat pretty well. That is as fast as look, we all have, hey, I'm going to eat a sweet here and there or whatever. But
yeah.
Point is, balance is key in everything, whether it's work or family or whatever. Certainly family should be, I think, number 1, but you got me thinking, man. I just think that's exactly right. I don't know.
Yeah, it just makes it sustainable and it makes it, I tell everyone, you meet so many people who are, once we get into the running community, I think that it's a pretty narrow range of personalities maybe, but
that's right.
But when you start to talk to people outside of it and from the outside looking in, they think it's crazy. And I tell everyone, and a lot of people will tell me, oh, I just can't run. I just hate how it feels. I'm just not a runner. I'll never be a runner. And I tell them,
100 times.
Give yourself 2 months and just do it. Just do it. Let's set a goal too. Let's not just run for running's sake. Let's sign up for a 5K and do some training and go do it. And then come back and tell me that you don't like running. And I'll tell you, there's a buddy of mine from fellowship, from my medical fellowship, that was back when I was first getting into running as an adult, really. And he would just always, anytime I talk about it with another friend, he'd always shake his head and think, I don't understand why you guys do this. It's so miserable. I hate running. Fast forward, it's 7 or 8 years now. And he literally was texting me today, hey man, I can't find the Metaspeed Sky anywhere online. But because he started running.
Yeah.
And he was consistent with it, did a few races and he got hooked and now he's doing his 3rd marathon.
Wow.
This always stands out in my mind. Like I just tell anyone and it doesn't have to be running, but some type of physical activity. Because humans, what I'll just shout from my soapbox is humans were made to move.
Yep.
No, we were not made to sit. And you find that activity and you get consistent with it and you will feel better and you will be happier and it will enhance the other parts of your life within reason.
Yeah.
But again, then you get into our group and everyone goes through their phases where they take it a little too seriously. We've all been there. And then you go too far and then invariably you probably get injured. You have to cut back. And then you realize maybe I need to have a little bit more balance this next time around. And there's nothing you can do but experience it to
That's
find
right.
it.
I think injury will humble a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you try to run through that injury, which a lot of runners do.
We all do it.
Done it. And when we realize now that injury has sent me back now for 6 months or however long, you hope that you realize, okay, it was probably better to take off those 2 or 3 weeks.
Yep.
Only rather than the 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Or 6 months. So
it's so challenging. And I see this so much more with people who got really into this as adults and maybe didn't have like that running career in high school or college where you're so fearful of losing the fitness that you've gained. And so you know that you have an injury you probably need to be attending to. But if that means that I'm going to scale back and lose my fitness, like what if I'm never fast again?
That's right.
And one thing I've learned as a friend and as a coach is for a while, I was trying to convince people, use my experience as an example. Don't go through what I went through. Because what happened with me, I think I mentioned 2 or 3 years ago, I just beat my patellar tendon into the ground, like into dust to the point where I had to take 4 months off and it was awful. But you know what? I eventually was forced to sit down, take a break, learn how to rehab it properly, build back up. And I came back faster, stronger, having more fun, having better perspective. And what I'm trying to get at here is I was trying to share that with people so they wouldn't do it. But what I've realized as I've also matured as somebody giving advice is there's really no way to learn better than experiencing yourself. And I give advice, I give recommendations, I try to work with people, but when it ultimately catches up to them, I realize there is when it's my goal to help them wade through that. But now they've gotten the experience and hopefully if they've developed a healthy enough relationship with running, they will stick with this. They're not going to quit because of this setback. And if I can help guide them through that setback and then get to their next level, then they'll have that knowledge from their own experience. And I think that's deeper and that's stronger for them. And so
Like that.
it happens to everyone, and it will probably happen to everyone again, and myself included.
I like that. And I think that maybe it's also pushing people to additionally think about doing some different types of training in addition to running, whether it's basic squats or pull-ups or chin-ups, push-ups, or leg day,
Yep.
whatever those things are, that implement that into your daily, because too much of anything is just not going to be great for you.
Especially these activities that are repetitive motion. You see it with runners, obviously, with the lower body injuries. You see it with like swimmers with upper body injuries, right? No, strength training is now that's becoming widely recognized and more popular, but it's just a critical element. And frankly, one that a lot of people want to avoid because one, all this takes time and we have an economy of time and they'd rather be running.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
They don't feel particularly good at it, and we avoid things that we don't feel confident in, and it's going to be an adjustment. But this is pretty timely. You've probably had a busy day today, but in part of my coaching, I'm trying to now offer up like more like resources and tools for athletes. So I started working on this newsletter. I
did see that, by the way.
It's been a learning process for me, but a big part of that is a lot of my athletes right now are asking about strength training, and I'm certainly not a strength coach, but I have my own experiences. I've talked to other people. So I've been putting things together to share with them. I shared that. And what I'm trying to do is there's two components to helping motivate people to incorporate this. One is give them digestible rationale. Like, why does this matter? Give them that carrot. But then you got to give them the guidance in a simple flip. Like I can say, go do strength training. Here's why. And they're like, great, cool. But then how do we do that? Super overwhelming, right? So the next step is give very simple, manageable guidance on how to get started on that. Just to get started.
Do some lunges.
Yeah, exactly. But giving that to them while I'm not a strength coach, if they're starting from ground zero, I'm like, okay, do this exercise, 3 sets of 10, and just give them like 3 things. Give somebody a foundation to start on. And then ultimately they're going to be able to build off of that.
And Matt, by the way, you say you're not a strength coach, and fair enough. That's maybe obviously something that you can start embedding into your trainings, like in learning yourself. Right. So just as you weren't a running coach,
exactly.
for all that long, you are now because you do it. And so you're a running coach that can embed those things inside your thing. So I think you need to, that's my opinion, think about that, because that's what running coaches do.
For sure. I think there's an entry
learn as well.
Yeah. Like I said, there's layers to it, right? And you just have to be transparent about what you can offer, stay in your lane to some extent. But if you're predominantly a runner, it's all going to still center around running. And I can help with, at the very least, providing a schedule, a suggested, this is the time that maybe it would work to do strength. Here's a good time not to do that. If you need to prioritize, if you can only get in 1 or 2 strength sessions, here's what I might prioritize, right? Like I've been telling a lot of my runners who we've all, like I said, moved into this speed season where we're going to do a lot more things. There's forwards with a lot of rest. We're going to do some hill strides. We're going to do more of that type of thing. We're going to try to build explosive power. What I've asked a lot of them is, do you do plyometrics? And I'd say that's the one thing most people avoid, because if they don't know what to do, it feels weird, hurts like hell the first few weeks you do it. You're like, how did I jump around for 5 minutes and hurt so much? Like I do jumping jacks and jump rope. And
I remember there's this guy, Vishal Patel. He used to be the DRC training coach or training guy years and years ago. And he would make us we'd go to hill training, but we'd go up the hill and jump like this with our knee up in the air, and then jump again with our other knee. I was like, I don't know what the hell we're doing.
Yeah.
But it was hard.
It's hard. And those things, like, we so rarely, when you just run all the time, which is great for building your aerobic engine, right? You don't build a lot of power, and you don't maybe maximize the efficiency of your running form. And those things are what force you to do that to some extent. And the explosive power you can gain from plyometrics is huge.
I think, Matt, you're speaking the language of, I think it's so important to do these things. And the reason I say that is because, like, I've been running for a long time, pretty long time, and I'm 50 now. I have never felt so stiff in my life as I do today, right?
Yeah.
I can go run 40 miles in a week. And if that's all I do, like, my legs feel stiff. I'm feeling like an old man now. Like, I've never felt like this. I'm serious.
I'm really sorry. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, it gets tougher. All I'm saying is, if you can learn how to do that at a younger age and if you're in your 30s or early
Yeah.
40s or whatever, but you're that much better when you hit 50 and 60 and 70.
No,
And
yeah.
I
You know,
mean,
the person the two people I have pushed hardest to do strength training and they do it now and it's benefiting them are my parents. And my
yeah,
dad is
oh,
72.
for sure.
My dad is 72 and he's never felt better than when he got a personal trainer and is like, has like on a strength program. It's
Yeah,
critical. There's a lot of research showing too that strength training
100%.
is one of the most important things to have
It
longevity.
slows down the
Yeah.
aging in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, you never stop aging, right? Always age, but it does help. And if you could do it now at early ages and you keep that going for the rest of your life, you're going to be that much better. My wife actually hired so she had a running coach for a long time.
Yeah.
And she hired a strength coach, like a weightlifting coach.
Yeah.
She's 51, but that's probably 3 or 4 years ago. And now she's as fit as she has been. Sorry, I try not to cuss too much on this, but
You probably have to give it like an explicit rating if you
yeah,
go too many words in it.
I don't think much kids listen anyways, but I don't want some mom or dad like, oh my gosh, this guy just said that for. I think there's something there for the strength and for runners and
Yeah.
just, I don't know how much these elite athletes put strength training in. I assume they do some
They
of
do a
those.
ton. If you,
Yeah.
like I said, if you follow Connor and Clayton and they're pretty transparent and their strength coach, you can follow him. The debate now is not if, but what should you be doing? They actually are big proponents. Their group of lifting heavy.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is becoming very popular. Get in there and do 80, like what they call it, like 80 to 85% of your 1 rep max weight, do 3 sets of 5 deep squats of that.
Are you doing those yourself?
I don't because one,
Gotta call you
there's
out
an
of it.
access issue, and 2, I'll be honest, I suck at that stuff and it intimidates me and I don't want to hurt that bad from it. So that's like probably the one thing I have. I will, as part of my knee prehab routine, I will go and do the machines and I will load up. I will load up the single leg squat pretty heavy, and it's pretty good, but it's not a true like barbell deep squat that I probably could be doing. But then the second thing, there's what we do, and then there's the timing of it. And there's a lot of debate about how much you should back off of your strength training when you're in marathon training. Conventional thought is you should back off, obviously, but they are pushing like we should keep doing this. Now, I would argue there's a difference between amateur runners and our economy of time and a professional runner and everything.
I don't disagree with that.
I think that for us as amateurs with full-time jobs and other responsibilities, I think there's too much recovery we can't do to get away with that personally. But those guys are not.
How many of us have personal massage people to do these?
Yeah.
Get a massage.
I do think actually one thing that's really important to me as a coach is trying to develop that toolkit or that resource kit of people to go to. So physical therapists, chiropractors, massage therapists. But to your point, I think we have those for the general public now. You can go to them, but like you can't do it the way they do, where it's built into your daily, it's built into your weekly professional.
That's all they do. Their job is to maybe promote some shows or something like that. And plus run,
job is
get massages and do strength work. And
really, it's like their job to take a nap in the middle of the day. I mean, like, it's amazing. But
here you are doing 100 plus miles a week, potentially.
Yeah.
And you don't get this nap. You have to go to work.
Well,
or you have to keep your kid.
Yeah. We have to be creative. There are, though, like you can be creative and efficient with certain things. I know you can sit on one of your more passive work calls and sit in Normatec boots. I'll tell you what I have is I have this device you can look up called a Firefly device that a lot of pro athletes, particularly the NBA, use, where you just basically, it's this little thing that is a nerve stimulator down on the side of your calf. And it stimulates muscle contraction in your calf, which promotes blood flow, which enhances.
I so need this.
And so like when I was like in clinic or had a full day of work, Firefly device is what it's called. And my leg's twitching away and everyone's, what the hell's going on, man? But I'm literally recovering. Like
you can get it for $48.
You have to get, so it's an investment in the sense that they last for about a month.
Really?
Technically, you're supposed to put them on 2 legs, but I can't be like twitching around all day. So I put them on 1 leg. But I will say, I do think that while there's a lot of pseudoscience out there, I have personally found that things like that can work. You can find ways to be efficient with your recovery. But the bottom line is you need good rest. You need to sleep, right? Sleep hygiene is like I talk a lot with my friends and other runners about
sleep is so important.
Is so many people are focused these days on the 1%, their supplements, their recovery hacks, their cold plunge and sauna and all that stuff's fine. You can do all that stuff, but please make sure your 99% is rock solid. And that's smart training. That's good eating habits. That's rest and sleeping and good sleep hygiene. And
Don't
also
focus on the 1%.
like life stress loading. The biggest thing I talk about with friends and athletes is that the number one factor, both in like consistent quality training and in race performance, is like life stress. I don't care how, like, honestly, my running is like the most constant, predictable thing.
Yeah.
I can really control for that, but it's like work and family things that are stressing me out that are going to affect my race day more than any of that training. And some of that you can't control, and you just have to accept that, right? But then you do your best to have it in control around the times you really want to perform.
I like that. I like that. Now, you said your wife is very supportive. Does she run at all or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, she does. She's the kind of runner that would be considered very much a consistent runner, but for the fact that she's married to me. And so she feels she's not a runner like Matt, but that's like not annoying. She runs like 3 or 4 days a week. She does half marathons.
Awesome.
Yeah, pretty.
It's kind of like my wife. So for a long time in the running community, I was just known as Leah's husband. And so she was the runner. I ran, but nobody really.
Yeah, I know.
I knew people. So you're like, okay, she's running 100 milers or all these marathons. She's done like those Bostons and Chicago and whatever. And she's just known in the community from different people because she's with them. And I was just, oh, is that Leah's husband? So maybe.
It's tricky. I will say within like my closest running groups, there's usually like, it's very hard for there to be two very intense runners in the relationship, especially when you have kids. Because again, there's the economy of the morning workout time. But yeah, we joke that like you need to have your spouse like interested enough in running that they appreciate it and they appreciate what it does for you. But you can't get them so excited about running that they want to share the time.
They want to do it as much as you.
If we both are training for marathons, like who's going to watch the kids?
Yeah. So, you got to have some parents or something.
I'm like, you know, you'd be excited about this, but not too excited.
Yeah. Can you be excited for something else? Go do some weights or something. I don't know.
The good news is she hates running with people and she won't run in the dark. So I get the mornings. So as long as I can be done with my running before the sun rises, I'm like
I was talking to, was it Brent or, it was, but I think it was Brent. Oh, Jonathan Brower. I don't know if you know him, but
I've heard of him.
Yeah. He had a kid. He was pretty fast and I don't think he ever hit his true potential, to be honest, but still just a very good runner. They had a kid and he said, when I was training for my marathon, I just did it. I got up at 3:00 and ran earlier before anybody got up and then just went through the day, helped and things like that. So sometimes as a parent, you got to do what you got to do if you want to keep your running going or your hardcore, I say running.
Yeah.
He just meant for marathon training specifically. You know?
I'll tell you, it evolves too. And it took my wife and me a little bit to sort out, like as I was getting more and more intense with it, I am for the most part really good about doing it at a time, right, that won't conflict. But when you're like really in the heat of marathon training, it's hard for there not to be some conflicts or some moments where I kind of want to prioritize my running, even though it's going to inconvenience. And for a while, I was so self-conscious and nervous about that I didn't communicate it very effectively. It would just be like, oh, I'm going to go run now. Did I not tell you that? Because it's like ask for forgiveness.
That's the worst.
And over time, we've gotten much better at communicating that. It's like, hey, like for the next month, I'm going to be a little bit crazy and intense about this. I'm going to do my best to communicate well in advance if I want to do this thing. And it helps also that our kids are older now, like getting older, right? They're not like in diapers. They want to play the Switch all the time.
How old are your kids?
9 and 6.
Okay. Yeah. They'll get a little bit easier. Get way easier when they're actually teenagers. Yes. When they're teenagers though, they want to get like my son, he's 14.
Yeah.
And he's big time into band and he's about to hit a freshman. And so hardcore band stuff is starting now they're doing tryouts and they're doing weekly kind of things. And then summertime, they have all this other stuff for over a month. They have band camp and stuff. And I'm like, dang, dude, it's intense.
Yeah. It goes back to that whole thing. Like I want them to enjoy this and have activities, but maybe not too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you really don't realize. I've certainly come to appreciate that my parents, like their entire like young adult life revolved around their kids. While I've come to really appreciate that, I also like wish, to some extent, I wish my parents had some of their own things. And I think we're seeing that with this newer generation of parenting. We're still doing all these activities with our kids, but make sure you have something for yourself. Because when they became empty nesters, it was a real struggle for them. It was a real challenge. They just didn't have their hobbies. And now they've made it there, but it was just like I
It
think
took them a while.
our generation watched them not do any of that and decided we're going to try to do a little bit more of that and model like kind of healthy balance for our
It's
kids.
funny you say that because people that live close, literally, I live in this condo I've had for 20 years, and people that live next to me are older, they're retired, and they're bored to death.
Yeah.
They have nothing, zero. And I'm like, man, because this one lady downstairs, I've known her for a long time. She goes, Chris, I don't know why everybody thinks retirement's so awesome. It's just so boring. Watch TV, you get tired of. I said, maybe you should go do something like go hike or find some people to do some shit with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, for sure.
And I think you're right. And I think learning how to build community within, whether it's running or exercise or playing whatever, I don't know what old people do, but whatever. So I agree.
They do all the same stuff as us, Chris. And it'd be nice to them.
Exactly. Why do you think I'm doing this podcast? I'm 50 years old. I want to retire when I'm 55. And I want to be able to know, it might not be this podcast that I do, but it could be something creative. It could be something fun. It's something within the community. Right now, it's all about running and spotlighting people like yourself and you gotta find your stuff now. Running,
for sure.
Running won't last forever necessarily. Maybe jogging will, or walk, run, or whatever. But
no, that's
a
that's a big thing for me too, Chris. And what I love about what you're doing is really like elevating and showcasing this community we have here, which allows for connection. And I think about the same thing. I'm not going to be probably able to run at this level forever. I can do it for a while, but what am I going to do with this passion I have
10 years from now?
When I'm not chasing those PRs, when I know that that those days are gone and that the extra training might not translate into that, how am I going to keep this both fun for myself, but also just like you, building the community is such a big part of this for me. And so what do I do now? How do I start crafting that 10-year plan that I feel like I'm contributing and elevating this community? And I don't want to presume to know what that is, but just continue to explore opportunities, do things that I enjoy that fit into that balance with those pillars, be okay with failing. For example, this newsletter I'm attempting to do, I don't know if I'm ever going to put another issue out because it's a lot of damn work and I suck at it.
I have some tips for you.
And maybe no one cares, but I enjoy it. I'm already spitting a lot of this information out to people all the time anyway. So I figured may as well try to formalize it. I'm not trying to be an influencer. I'm not interesting enough to be an influencer, but I can still contribute at whatever scale as long as it fits all those values and priorities. So I love that you're doing this. And I think the community is going to benefit from it all.
Look, we have a great running community in DFW. Really good. People, we have not just fast people, but just a lot of people doing running, whether it's marathons, half marathons, 5Ks, et cetera. They're just being healthy. They're out. Literally, there's 50 groups out there, like 50 running groups.
Yeah.
And some of these running groups have like hundreds of people.
I think it's so great too is for a while there, I joked about like the rise of the micro club, right? Kind of like the rise of the microbrewery. And I rolled my eyes at it. And then now I'm like leading one to some extent. And the point is that it's just so great that there's something for everyone. And in my opinion, all of those groups are working harmoniously and there's really great relations. Yeah. And you mentioned like fast runners. I think to me, while I'll acknowledge that you've pointed out that I'm one of the faster runners, and I wanted to go back to this way earlier is, there's always a bigger fish.
Always.
So if your goal is like notoriety as being the big fish and whatever, I will just tell you, you will always fall short if that is your goal.
100%.
True.
Especially in running.
Especially in running, you will never be sad. You'll be satisfied for a moment and then there'll be the next thing.
That's right.
And so for that to be the reason that you run is always going to fall short for you. But like we've talked about, what's important to me is normalizing and showing how you can make this really intense passion fit into your life and enhance your life.
Yeah.
No matter what your goal is. And whether you're a 5-hour marathoner or a 2:20 marathoner, it's all really the same at the end of the day. And we should all celebrate that.
I love your perspective. I think that's right, because there's always going to be somebody bigger and better. And that's just the reality. And it's fun to compete. It's fun to be really good at what you do. And you should do whatever you can to be the best you can at whatever you do if you want. But at the end of the day, the reason I run for the longest time was mainly because I was 25 pounds overweight. And all of a sudden I was fairly decent. I could generally get top 10, top 15, top 20 when my used to overall, but now it's probably my age group. But you can get first in my age group or close to, depending on who's there. But the point is that I'm still competing at my age. And something you said is, what happens when you're not as fast as you are today? You still got 4, 5, 6, whatever years left to be really fast, but you could be fast for a 50-year-old. You could be the fastest of all the 50-year-olds.
Yeah,
you're not going to be a 20-year-old forever. You're just not.
And
you're not going to keep your PR for a marathon in your 50s could be a 2:40, and that's still pretty darn good for 50. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. And what I'll say with that is, while you can have the perspective that there will always be a bigger fish, that doesn't mean you can't go chase that bigger fish.
Yeah.
And that's one thing to know, that at every level, people do this. Some people talk to me and they're like, gosh, you're just so fast. And I say, really? Because the only people I focus on are the people who are faster than me.
That's right.
I'm slow because I'm not those 220s guys that we've talked about that I want to be. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not to be dismissive of everyone that's not quite at my speed, but it's just to say we all do that. And we can have the perspective, but it's also okay to chase those people and to want to go be at that next tier. And I certainly, I said is I will be very transparent about that. It's my goal. I'm running CIM. We got a big crew of sloths running CIM in December. And
I was about to ask you, what are you going to be doing?
I'm going to go and I'm going to get under 230 there. And I'm just calling it right now. That's what I'm going to go do. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what are you doing before that? Are you doing any half marathons or anything to prepare?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm in a speed season right now.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a lot of short work. I'll do a couple 5Ks or time trials here in the...
Which 5Ks are you going to do? Like any specific?
I haven't signed up for any future ones yet. I am looking at maybe doing some time trials on the track and get out the spikes and go.
When will you do that? What will you do?
I don't know. I'm actually looking at organizing one like the 4th of July, getting a crew out there at a track. And
you should invite me. I'll come out.
Yeah, I'll let you know. And I think we'll try to actually even have a clock. We'll make it like, it won't be official, but it will have something out there and make it fun on a holiday. I will say,
I'll do some interviews or something.
Yeah, for sure. I'll for sure do 1 or 2 tune-up halves in the fall. I'll do the Katy 5K. My friend Jody.
I'll be there.
My friend Jody, she pushed that off. So
there'll probably be some fast people there too.
Yeah, I think it's just a fun race for Dallas.
It is.
So I'll do that. What?
Have you done that?
I've never done it because I think it's on a Thursday evening. Yeah. Historically, that's been a very challenging time for me, but our schedule with life is getting a little easier where I can pull that off now. So I will do it this year. And then I'll do a half. I think I might do one in Houston. I might do one here.
Which one here? DRCers?
The one I typically do for a winter tune-up is the Toyota Music Factory.
Okay.
It's not a big race, but it's a decent course at just the perfect time of year. It's like the first weekend of November every year. So it's just a good time to do a training half, but a training race half.
You'll race it.
I'll race it, but it's with like we were talking about with the 5K, the Velvet Hammer 5K. It's about focusing on effort and execution, not worrying about my time kind of thing.
Will you get your friends to run it too? So in the sloths?
Usually I do. Yes.
I'm going to go run that then. I'm going to
Okay, you do it.
Well, it'd just be fun to hang out with you guys.
But yeah, we have a huge crew doing CIM. I think Train Pegasus has a huge crew doing Indy, and then we'll have a huge crew doing CIM. Okay. So it's going to be a fun fall of some of these travel races.
There's so many people to interview, man. It's almost insane. Like I don't even have time. I could do 1 a week or 2 a week, and it's still not enough because there's so many really good runners out there.
Yeah, it's just a good time. Running's on the rise, right? These races are selling out earlier and earlier. So I was like 1 million people signed up for London or something crazy like that.
Yep, that's exactly right.
It's insane.
To get in is impossible.
Yeah.
But did we miss anything that you really want to talk about? You're doing some really cool things, coaching.
Like I said,
a lot of people, it sounds.
I think that I always love chatting with you. I'm happy to do it anytime. It'll be fun to at some point talk specifics on training as we approach some of these big fall marathons. I wouldn't mind. We could recap little bits of the training cycle and where we are and how we're feeling and why we're doing the workouts that we're doing.
Okay.
Bring in some other training partners. I don't know if that's a thing that would
extremely doable. We could do a round table or something.
Yeah, actually, this guy I ran with in Houston a couple times. Yeah, I saw he was on a friend's podcast and they would just recap his training for the week. Now I think that's a little bit too granular, but I do think people would like to hear what our training looks like on a.
I have an idea after this podcast, and you just tell me if you're open to it. So I like it. All right.
Sounds good.
All right, Matt. Again, thanks for coming on. Thanks everybody for tuning in to another DFW Running podcast. Please rate and review us. We do have a Substack newsletter, so please go to dfwrunningtalks.substack.com. We have a YouTube channel. Please go in and watch that if you can. And until next time, thanks everyone.